Welcome to our channel. Today, we're back with a brand new topic just for you. Before we start the podcast, please don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the like button. Enjoy the show.
Welcome to the deep dive. You gave us your reading list, and we're here to pull out the key insights.
And today's source is Exploring PHP, a web development mainstay from Code Talk.
Yeah, and that title, Mainstay, really says something, doesn't it?
It does. We're not talking about some fleeting trend here. This is a technology with serious staying power.
Totally. I mean, think about it. Early WordPress, early Facebook. PHP was under the hood. That's huge.
It absolutely shaped a massive part of the web as we know it. It's not just history, it's foundational.
So our mission today is basically to unpack PHP. What is it really? Why did it become so important? And where does it stand now?
Exactly. A shortcut, if you like, to understanding this, well, really pivotal web technology.
Okay, let's dive in then. The origin story is quite interesting, isn't it? It wasn't like some big corporate project.
Not at all. Very grassroots. It started back in '94. Rasmus Lerdorf just created some tools, scripts really, for his own website.
Personal homepage tools, right? Just to see who was visiting his site.
Pretty much. Simple CGI scripts. Amazing how things evolve.
It's a big jump from tracking visitors to PHP hypertext preprocessor. What drove that change into a proper scripting language?
Well, the big need was for dynamic websites. You know, pages that weren't just static HTML, but could actually change, respond to users.
Right. Generating content on the server side.
Exactly. PHP evolved to do just that. And critically, you could embed it directly into HTML code.
Ah, okay. So that made it super easy for developers back then.
Oh, absolutely. Compared to other methods at the time, just dropping PHP tags into your HTML was incredibly straightforward. A game changer, really.
It just clicked, simplifying things massively during that web boom.
For sure. So if we had to define PHP quickly now, what's the elevator pitch?
Okay, well, it's server-side, right? Runs on the web server, not your computer.
Yep.
It's interpreted, so it executes code line by line, kind of. And its main job is creating dynamic web content before the page even gets sent to you.
Perfect. It preps the page on the server. The source also mentions it's dynamically and loosely typed.
Which means flexibility for developers.
Right. But also, you need to be mindful of potential errors that only pop up when the code actually runs.
So more testing needed, potentially.
Careful testing is definitely important. That flexibility comes with a trade-off.
Gotcha. And it supports different programming styles, procedural, object-oriented.
And even functional elements now. That adaptability has definitely helped it stick around and evolve with how people build software.
Makes sense. Okay, so that's the what. Let's talk about the why. Why PHP? Why did it get so dominant?
Well, a huge factor, as the source points out, is that it was designed for the web.
It wasn't adapted from something else. Its core purpose was web tasks.
Precisely. Things like handling form submissions, managing user sessions, talking to databases. These are like native concepts in PHP. Very well integrated.
And then there's the ecosystem. Hosting support is practically universal.
You'd really struggle to find a web host that doesn't run PHP. That ubiquity is massive, lowers the barrier to getting something online.
Plus, its role in content management systems, WordPress especially.
Oh, absolutely. The source mentions WordPress powers over 40% of the web. That alone guarantees PHP's relevance.
40%. Wow. That's just staggering, really.
It is, and that dominance creates this huge ecosystem. Developers, jobs, resources, community support, it feeds itself.
True. The source also mentions a fast development cycle. How does that work?
It's generally quite easy to set up and start writing code. You can get a basic site or feature up and running pretty quickly, which is great for prototyping.
Less boilerplate, maybe. Less complex setup.
Often, yes. You can iterate fast. And crucially, it hasn't stood still.
Right. The improvements in version 7 and 8, performance boosts, better features.
Huge leaps in performance, actually. And things like better type declarations, making the code potentially more robust. It shows active development.
And the frameworks. Laravel, Symfony.
Yeah, a massive community building powerful tools and libraries on top of PHP. You don't have to build everything from scratch. These frameworks provide structure, security features, common components. Saves a ton of time.
So you're leveraging the work of thousands of other developers.
Exactly. So thinking about today, where is PHP primarily used? Obviously WordPress, but what else?
Well, dynamic websites and web apps remain the core, definitely. But the source also flags e-commerce platforms.
Right, like Magento and WooCommerce, which is built on WordPress itself. Big players.
And it's not just full websites anymore, is it? APIs and backend services too.
Increasingly so. Modern PHP frameworks have really good support for building APIs, RESTful services, even GraphQL. It's adapted to that microservices trend.
And that rapid development aspect makes it good for prototyping, as you said, even if maybe the final version uses something else.
Yeah, it's often the quickest way to get version 1 out the door. Okay, but it's not all sunshine and roses. The source mentions downsides too.
Yeah, it does. The first one is about inconsistency, syntax, function naming.
That's a common criticism, stemming from its long history and evolving design philosophies over decades. Some older parts feel different from the newer stuff.
Like layers added over time, maybe not always perfectly integrated.
That's a fair way to put it. It can make the learning curve a bit uneven sometimes. And then security.
Always a big topic for web tech. PHP has had its share of scares, hasn't it?
It has, though often it's not the language itself, but how it's used. Poor coding practices can lead to vulnerabilities.
Like SQL injection or cross-site scripting.
Exactly, those classic web vulnerabilities.
Yeah.
If you're not careful about sanitizing inputs and writing secure database queries, you can open yourself up to attack. Secure coding is non-negotiable.
Makes sense. Performance limitations also get mentioned.
Yeah, while PHP 7 and 8 made huge strides for really high-load, computationally intensive tasks, a compiled language might still edge it out in raw speed.
So for certain niche high-performance scenarios, maybe look elsewhere.
Potentially, yeah. And finally, there's just more competition now, isn't there?
For sure. Node.js using JavaScript on the back end, Python with Django or Flask, Go. Lots of strong alternatives.
They've definitely gained significant ground in the back-end space.
So considering all the history, the good, the bad, the competition, what's the outlook? Is PHP fading?
Well, despite people predicting its demise for years, the source argues pretty strongly that it's not going anywhere fast.
Too much existing code. Too integrated.
That's a massive part of it. Its deep roots in the web, especially with WordPress, give it enormous inertia. Plus the ongoing improvements we talked about.
Right, the language itself is still evolving, the community is active, the frameworks are powerful.
Exactly. It suggests it's adapting and will likely remain relevant for quite some time. It's still a very practical tool.
So who should be learning PHP today then?
Well, the source suggests quite a few groups. Anyone building or maintaining dynamic websites, obviously.
Especially if they're touching WordPress or similar platforms.
Absolutely essential there. It's also seen as a pretty accessible entry point for beginners wanting to get into web programming.
Lower barrier to entry compared to some other backend options.
Generally, yes. And developers interested in backend services may be wanting something with a mature ecosystem and lots of jobs.
Okay, so if someone's weighing up backend tech for a new project, PHP is still a very solid contender, especially for web-centric stuff.
Definitely worth considering, depending on the project's specific needs.
Right. So wrapping up this deep dive into exploring PHP, we've seen its origins, its massive impact.
The strengths, particularly for the web, the huge ecosystem, the way it keeps evolving.
And acknowledge the downsides, the inconsistencies, security considerations, the competition.
But the takeaway seems clear. Despite challenges, its place seems pretty secure for now. It might not be the new hotness, maybe.
Yeah, not always the flashiest, but its influence is just undeniable. A real workhorse.
Absolutely. A workhorse of the web.
So here's a final thought to chew on, building on all that. Given PHP's massive reach, especially through things like WordPress and its ongoing development, where else could it pop up? What unexpected area might see its influence grow?
You know, thinking about how established tech like this interacts with newer trends, could it find a niche in, say, certain types of IoT backends or maybe areas we haven't even thought of yet? It makes you wonder how this old guard might surprise us again.
That's a really interesting question to ponder. How does longevity translate into future adaptability? Food for thought.
Definitely. Well, thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
Until next time.